The Salty Sales Sages.
Welcome to the Salty Sales Sages for another episode. I'm Simon Stillwell.
And I'm Greg Grimer.
And this week we have Marianne Pierce joining us because we're talking about events. Marianne is the founder of Map Digital, where she spent over 2 decades revolutionizing event production for the financial services industry, from intimate gatherings to massive global conferences. Her company, for instance, produces the world's largest global investment banking conference, managing thousands of speakers across hundreds of concurrent sessions that actually reach tens of thousands of participants worldwide. Under her leadership, Map Digital has become the trusted partner both for the biggest banks in the world and for small businesses using their Meta Meetings platform and a world-class team of event designers and engineers. So put simply, she knows what she's talking about when it comes to making events profitable. So welcome to the Salty Sales Sages, Marianne.
Thank you so much, Simon. Can you say that 3 times fast? That's amazing.
I wanted to focus more on the smaller businesses, and I attend quite a lot of events where a business, for instance, invites people to come and attend either a panel discussion or hear a speaker, or it's a breakfast club, as it were. And they're great because you learn something and you can network as an attendee, and they're usually recorded. However, I'm really honestly not sure that most businesses find it easy to quantify their investment and their return on investment. So what's the one thing you wish every small business understood before hosting an event?
Such a critical question. Everything's about process as far as after over almost 30 years being a pioneer in bringing the internet and the digital and now AI and agentic into events. Keep it simple, Sarah. Anything you do, the first question you ask is, how will success be measured? Why are we gathered here together? And what are the outcomes we want? You don't gather together because we've always done it this way. So first of all, be very clear what your return on investment is going to be, and then work backwards. It doesn't matter if it's 5 people in an event or the one we're about to do in San Francisco that's 10,000 attendees and over 50,000 online. It's the same process. So size isn't really the problem here. It's what you want, what's the end goal, and working backwards so you can achieve it. So basically start with the goal and work backwards. And if something doesn't serve the goal, get rid of it. I think there's also something that I would love to also discuss is, if you have conferences that have content, panels, speeches, anything that is content, I think that we all should be thinking very, 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 very strongly that content from conferences is your best friend, because with AI now, it is so easy to capture it, take those transcripts and mine it for gold. Content's a terrible thing to waste, and we can get into some great, little bit of detail about that afterwards. You'd be very, very surprised how you can use an asset that you would just not even consider, like straw, and spin it into gold. So this is about being purposeful about constructing your events.
So you're really talking there about, if you've recorded the panel, for instance, speaking and the questions and so on, you take all of that and you break it up and you reuse it and reuse it and use it and sort of extend, if you like, the period over which people are engaging with you and that content. That's really what you're talking about?
That's right. We were talking about purposefulness. Let's say it's like 2 panels. And it's great. You curated that. You had your panels. You have to be very purposeful about all the work you're doing to make sure that that content's good. Just please audio tape it. You don't even have to videotape it. Audio tape it. Then take the audio and get a transcript, whether you use any of the AI tools or pop it up. If it was a video, pop it up on YouTube, you get a transcript. And then you can just pop it into a large language model. You can pop it into ChatGPT, Perplexity, whatever, And then you can start mining gold from there. You can start mining little snippets that if you have somebody who can do a video edit, that's wonderful. The AI, you can give it a prompt and it will say, this is the stuff that is interesting. And then most importantly, for some of the absolute beginners, you can issue a press release. You can issue a blog post. You can actually have your LinkedIn campaign written, especially if you go into Claude or go into Perplexity and ask Claude to get working. We're doing this now with the major banks. They never looked at the transcripts except to look at them very quickly to see if there was an analytical point that they could put the report on, and then they would go away. Now they understand that content has an evergreen approach. It can even help you write your sales follow-up lessons, as this person said, and quote them and blah, 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 and all that good stuff. So you don't start from zero all the time.
That's interesting.
The thing I've always been asked to do is help clients get people along to the event in the first place. That last minute 72-hour rush of, let's get some people along, we don't want to put bums on seats. What other things should be being measured at the event apart from the three that we've covered there, the obvious? What are other things that should be measured to get
bums? I think that with the technology that's available, and also especially with the rise of AI, I think we might want to be looking at events in a time sequence that doesn't end when you say thank you very much.
Yeah.
If you've recorded, then you could then also be outreaching to the people who attend it with very, very cogent and prescribed follow-ups that would help your salespeople to actually dive into. You could also use that content to sign people up for the next one, or to use it to campaign afterwards, after the event. We call it the flipped conference. This is a term that we've been working on. We started working on this with our not-for-profit social good conferences that had to build up audience, okay, for a cause, for whatever, to raise money. And that content was so good, so you couldn't attend the event at say the UN. But we had like 6 weeks afterwards with thought leadership snippets that built a LinkedIn community, sometimes 3 times the amount of people who actually attended the event.
Good.
So then when we came to do the next one, we had a built-in mailing list, and we already had advocates and online. So you're looking about, is it just the bums in seats, or is it building a brand, a cloud, a content, a resource around your services or your brand?
Yeah. So I can exactly see what you're saying there, and that's not traditionally how it's done. Normally, you go to the event, you get a customer list, you're supposed to ring them up.
We're living in a digital world. I've been doing webcasting since 1996. So I'm up in the cloud for a long, long time. And I've seen the actual behavior and what people are looking for information seeking and community building, and how potent it is. So if you just think events are bums in seats and thank you very much, then you're really leaving massive, massive opportunity and money on the table.
There's still a lot of that thinking around today.
Absolutely.
If there is,
Yeah.
yeah. But then again, if you want to, hey, listen, if you want to make money, think about, work smarter. Work smarter, and keep it simple, but work smarter. The idea of the Flip Conference, let me go back to why we called it the Flip Conference. Because, we did all these gorgeous events at the UN, and the thought leadership was incredible. Nobody came, and nobody watched it online. So I captured it, and I flipped it. It had the afterlife, was those snippets. Then the next one we came, it was like they were beating down the hatches to get in. So it's like, to me, I say to my newbie clients, let's do an event. We're going to do very, very good, very hard to get people attending. And then you won't lose the amount of money that you've invested in the hall, the food and beverage, and the content development. It will continue to work for you. So it's, yes, the event itself is important, but to me, my services to my client, it's the flipped nature of it and the community we can build, because video is the most important marketing asset you have in your wheelhouse. So if you don't have video, you can also do audio. You can also just do blog posts. I mean, blog posts are incredible. Just even posting things on the different blogs. I mean, that's where actually we're AI is picking up information. They'll pick up your brand faster than Google. So the world's changed.
Yeah. I mean, we see everyone running webinars. I mean, I was a panelist on a webinar. There weren't that many people that attended it. So, and it's always half the people that say they're going to attend or register actually do show up, right? I think is what you're saying, is building that community so that the next time you run a webinar, you've now got a community that recognizes what you're actually doing and says, okay, I want to attend this next one. Is that right?
Absolutely. And I think that we should get very clear on certain terms. I mean, we live in a attention-seeking culture now. I
Yeah.
mean, having an hour webinar, I can't commit to that.
No.
If I might want to do it, and then of course a client calls, or they don't call anymore, I get an email from a client and I have to drop it. However, if I took the text of that webinar, put it into my Perplexity and said, please isolate 5 thought leadership snippets. And this is the key. This is the magic key of the Flip Conference, and what I've learned to be true from doing this for almost 10 years. Because I've been in the cloud for a long time, so it's easier for me. And I'm in the cloud. I'm not on the ground, okay, as you can probably all tell. LinkedIn becomes your tent pole, and you put your snippets up there. They're not going to go to your website, and they're not going to go back to the Spotify. However, in LinkedIn, it is built to be a bulletin board of discussion, of thought leadership engagement. And in fact, the algorithm has changed even more with LinkedIn to be much more interactive about thought leadership, not about shilling your brand, because the algorithm won't pick it up. But if they see engagement coming back and forth and people commenting and people still engaging after your event, after the last cup of coffee has been poured, you're going to get exponential results. And, if you can give me a snippet and whet my appetite about what your thought leadership is, and then on the LinkedIn, I have a place to go and see the full episode. That's great. But what you really want are people to be following your LinkedIn page so they continue to get your post, and then you can harvest that to continue to outreach them.
If you want to amplify to that larger audience, are there any other tricks that companies should be thinking about other than what you've just talked about, or is that really the
one thing that we did for a small breakfast that was really gorgeous and great? We had a photographer who was just terrific and knew who the people were, and he captured those moments when people are in the thick of thoughts. I mean, that's incredible. It's not people standing up in front of the step and repeat. It's being the action, the fear of missing out. And then we happened to actually capture the sessions that were, again, their customers talking about how that company has solved their pollution. So case studies. So we did a 2-minute highlight reel, literally about 32 hours after the breakfast. We did an intercut of all that people talking and milling around, and just interstitially cut a couple of key moments, put it up as a highlights tape on LinkedIn, and even sent it to the people who attended. We couldn't believe the response on LinkedIn. Oh, I'm going to come next time. I promise, I promise, I promise. You've captured everything that you produced, that you worked. Now you're making it work for you double time.
But going back to your word strategy, you've just described something that you could pre-plan at the beginning. And with your experience, you'd look at a client, whether they're a non-profit or a business or a big business, and you'd say, I've got a pretty good idea of what will work here. To what degree, when the conference happens, is there a spontaneity of, I think if we leverage that content, that will work? And how much is it pre-planned? There must be some level of spontaneity here where you get some content and think that particular speaker is so impressive and so humorous, I'm going to leverage that rather than the other plan I had.
Yeah, we're human. I mean, first of all, I don't produce the largest investment banking conference in the world if it's not planned to an inch of its life. I mean, my producers are ex-Broadway stage managers, so they rule the world. You plan. So when you get those moments of inspiration, spontaneity, of epiphany, insight, make sure you're capturing it. And of course, those are the golden moments. But at least you have coverage for everything else.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really there. When the whole thing, if you think about the flipped conference and the beginning, you reverse engineer. These are the assets I'm building. I'm building these sessions. I need to get these little clusters of people talking together. I need to call assets for my after campaign, which is going to continue the reach of the activation I did and help me plan or open up or market to the next one. Also, give your salespeople, wouldn't it be great? Like, salespeople can be they send snippets along to their customer. Did you see when he said this? It applies to you. And here's the full session if you want to review it again. Or here's the transcript of it. Or we did a blog post of it. Everyone wants information here. Everyone wants to be enlightened. And, the stuff that you prepared, if you didn't capture it and think of it as an asset, you'd be working 3 times as hard. To me, it's like plan it once, use it multiple times. Content's a terrible thing to waste.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, as you describe this, Marianne, you say that we can use our iPhones or whatever, and I do understand that. But I think, having seen some of your work with small businesses, I see that as being a place where using a business like yours to do that professionally actually would make a significant difference. And
I can tell a story about a complete unknown startup who actually got funded because of a snippet that I just happened to capture in post. So
just explain that. What happened there?
I just love saying that. This was one of those glorious moments. So this was the G2I2, which is the global green initiative that held at the UN, and the bottom line is that there were 5 levels of the SDGs that are going to be funded, and we want women to get 1/3 of that purse. Whether it's space technology, whether it's renewables, whether it's ag tech, whether it's education, transportation, deep tech, and also some medicine. So we want to say, here's the pathway, ladies. So we had this woman who was an ag tech, a vertical harvest farm, a complete startup, an unknown. And a friend of mine just happened to invest in her, and he just happened to be the owner of Oatly. But that's, neither here nor there. So I said, get to New York. I'll have you on the dais at the UN in 2 days. I can feature you. It's those glorious moments. Get there. She did a brilliant job. Her name is Nona Vetta of the Vertical Harvest Farm. The person who was interviewing her was Shelley Zalas, who is the female quotient. Shelley has a huge enterprise. I mean, she does Davos and she does all the major, CES, and she has 300,000 followers on LinkedIn. Okay. The first snippet I put up was Nona talking about her vertical harvest farm. She's flanked by Shelley and she's flanked by Bjornost. Put it up there. No amplification, organic, completely free on a brand new LinkedIn page. No followers. Within 2 weeks, 200 followers. She was trending as a thought leader in the ag tech space, a complete unknown, mind you. The Bill and Melinda Gates and the Rockefeller Foundation were following her and contacted her. A year and a half later, she took $60 million from the state of Maine, and that snippet was the most powerful content she used in every presentation and every pitch.
Okay, but some of that was, you managed to put her in front of very powerful people, but nevertheless.
Yeah, but how about if I didn't? I didn't purposefully, capture it and post it.
Yes, then it would have gone. It would have been.
She would have raised the money eventually in 3 or 4 years. But that's the aha moment.
Yeah.
Those wonderful moments that, it can happen, and the networking on LinkedIn. I mean, I think that, you have to think about events are 300. They're timeless. It's a cycle. The event itself, it just happens to be where people gather together. But the beginning and the after effect of the events, there's so much you can do about it. I mean, it depends on how hard you want to work.
So if I'm thinking about running a small business, I run one of these breakfast events or panel discussion or whatever, and I'm trying to evaluate how successful that has been utilizing the strategy of the flip conference as we're talking about here. What metrics should I be sort of measuring?
LinkedIn is what we've used, and LinkedIn is gorgeous because of the networking effect. If somebody likes it, you start getting that little video missile starts hitting other networks, and they start coming to you. So it becomes exponential. I mean, it's amazing to watch that progression. How we did it, let's just say, go back to the G2I2, the global leadership, is that we went from 0 followers to 200 in 2 weeks, and I looked at who they were. Those people were unbelievable. We would never have gotten them, to come to the UN. However, they were very influential and powerful, and they became the core of our outreach to have women understand, here's our areas where you should be building your startups, your new business, in which to, not only be sustainable, but get funded, because there's a tremendous amount of money in play, especially, in space and ag tech and all those things like that. So that was massively successful. How successful would it have been if there was 45 speakers on stage, only 200 in the audience? At that point, we wouldn't have known, but we had snippets for days, and we continue to use them actually to promote certain actions. So that's wonderful. We have included little small snippets in our email marketing, and people do watch them. And if you have HubSpot, you can tell if they have. So you're getting the more touch points that you give your client, you build up a bigger portfolio about what exactly they need. And this is what we're doing with our major clients. We have an event website that's extremely detailed. I mean, we captured data points, who did what, who downloaded, who asked what question, who was in the session room. You can imagine what that means for an investment banking conference, that knowing to follow their investors' content journey through a 4-day conference. And to see if there's those moments you were talking about, those aha, spontaneous moments, where they make their money, is that they match the buy side with the sell side. And they spend billions of dollars on research. But there's something about a live event. Maybe if I see, Blackstone, they're listening to Verizon's webcast, and they're in the room right now, and they're asking questions. Do we have a one-on-one meeting set up with Verizon and Blackstone? We don't? Oh, that's great.
Interesting. It's fascinating, really, to how to maximize it.
But start small. This is everything here is just very conceptual, and then you'll be stymied and you won't do anything because it's too big.
Yes.
So go back to the beginning. What is my objective? How will success be measured? And how will my boss not be on my back? Okay, what metrics do they need to see? So depending on what that is in your event, obviously you're going to plan the right location and the right speaker, and you're going to have the right email marketing campaign and all those good things to get those people there. And how can you actually then really extend it, with those assets you have, and start out small? Wouldn't it be just enough to say, oh my God, we got 200 more followers on LinkedIn, and look who they are. They're potential clients.
Yeah.
And they didn't answer my invitation. It's attention. And it's creating the circle of engagement. And think video on the web. Video on the web is the campfire that engages people to your brand.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's fascinating. Greg, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to change my question now. Attention span. Can you say anything on that for video on the web? There's this idea that you've got to say it in less than 20 seconds or whatever. What are your thoughts on attention span and the value of the content? What are some of the ground rules for attention span that you could tell us for video?
It's really, it's so, because it depends on demographics.
Yep.
I like to keep it to my personal, coming from direct marketing, it was the 2-minute spot that, you'd sell your, with your paid subscription of Time Magazine, you get the Hammond World Atlas. I know it all by heart, right? And we would also pull a 30-second and a 10-second radio. We would do these different things. If you have a great complete thought and compelling, if it's a compelling snippet, like if someone says something, a come to mama moment, let's put it that way, that's going to get people's attention. Then you want them to do the next step, and there has to be the ask. Click here to find out more. Come and see the whole thing. Everything's about the ask, what the next step is going to be. So it's about compelling content, not about how long it is.
Right.
A 2-minute, like, incredible content piece, if it's compelling, they're going to watch it.
Yeah. Hold their
And
attention.
I think 30 seconds is good. I tend to like a minute, but many times I do cut them down to like 40 or 30 seconds, because if it's not compelling, get rid. I want them wanting more.
Great.
I think that's fascinating. Thank you so much, Marianne, for
Yeah,
coming
very
on.
interesting.
I think this is going to be valuable for a lot of small businesses, and we will put your details at the end here so that if people want to actually engage with you and understand how Map Digital can help them with their events, they can do that. Thank you very, very much for
Yeah, that's
coming and
great.
joining
Thank
us
you very
on.
much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
The Salty Sales Sages.